Now let us see what are the various principles of Panchsheel. Panchsheel is the principled core of the non-aligned movement. Down the years, the ethos of Panchsheel continued to be reflected in world events, even if there was no conscious attributions, finding expression in the position of the developing countries in the North-South dialogue and in other groupings. The timeless relevance of Panchsheel is based on its firm roots in the cultural traditions of its originators, the two world's most ancient civilization. The linkage that was established by the spread of Buddhism in China laid the historical basis for the formulation of the principles of Panchsheel by India and China. Indeed, Panchsheel is an important instrument designed to secure peaceful relations among nations on the basis of faith in peaceful coexistence and non-interference. It has been a fundamental principle of Indian foreign policy. It is the Indian Charter of healthy, peaceful and cooperative relations with the other nations of the world because it rests on equality and rules out aggressions and internal interferences. The term Panchsheel is a composite of two Sanskrit terms, Panch meaning five and Sheel meaning code of behavior or conduct. As such, it means five principles of code of conduct. Panchsheel stands for five principles which are designed to guide the mutual relations among the nations. These principles were first enunciated in a specific form in the Sino-Indian Treaty on Tibet in April 1954 and were restated in the joint declaration issued by Nehru and Chu En-lai at the end of the visit of Chinese leaders to India in June 1954. The five principles of Panchsheel are: first, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty; second, mutual non-aggression; third, mutual non-interference; fourth, equality and mutual benefit; and the last, peaceful coexistence. The philosophical basis of these ideas was provided by the five principles of conduct which Mahatma Buddha had laid down for his disciples, as well as five principles which Indonesia have adopted in 1945 as a basis for its foreign policy. These principles were: faith in our people, that means nationalism; faith in humanity; faith in freedom; faith in social justice; and faith in God. Panchsheel became the presiding principle of the Asian African countries for equality and freedom against the prevailing colonial and imperialist domination of the world. The United Nations accepted the five principles as a code of conduct in international relations and the aims of the United Nations. In India, it was under Nehru's influence that the five principles of peace, peaceful coexistence, non-interference, healthy friendship and cooperation were formulated into the concept of Panchsheel. The first principle, that is, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, rules out the territorial and economic imperialism and interferences in internal affairs of other nations. Positively, it stands for the right of each nation to act independently and secure its integrity as a nation. The second principle commits the nation to the use of peaceful means for making one's decision or interest acceptable to the other nation. The third principle admits the right of each nation to manage its internal affairs freely, and it rules out external interferences in the domestic affairs of any other country. Non-interference in internal affairs of other nation is accepted as a means of peace and as an anti-tension, anti-war principle. The fourth principle stresses equality of nations and fruitful and mutually beneficial relations among them all. Each state, whether big or small, is equal with every other state and has the equal right to conduct its foreign relations with the others on the basis of equality and mutual benefits. The fifth principle admits peaceful coexistence as the ideal and natural condition and principle of international living. It admits that in spite of socio-economic differences in the political system that are at work in various states, the states can peacefully coexist and develop friendship and cooperation. This principle of peaceful coexistence and not the Cold War principle of domination, tension building and attempts at isolating the states with different ideological and political systems can lead to peace and development. Peaceful coexistence and not Cold War and power politics constitute the correct, natural, healthy and efficient approach to peace, security, prosperity and the progress of the world. Panchsheel is a principle of peace through peaceful coexistence and non-interference. It constitutes an ideal means for development of healthy, friendly and cooperative relations among the nations. After the acceptance of Panchsheel by India and China, several other nations came forward to accept it. In October 1954, Vietnam and in December 1954, Yugoslavia accepted it. In 1955, this principle was accepted by Myanmar, that means Burma, then by Laos, Nepal and Cambodia. The non-official Asian Relations Conference in New Delhi, which was held in 1955 April, they have also accepted or adopted the Panchsheel principles. But its biggest success came when the first Afro-Asian Conference, which was held at Bandung and accepted Panchsheel and even extended it to include some other principles. Australia, Austria, Poland also came forward to accept Panchsheel. Thus, within a short period, Panchsheel came to receive a good and favorable response and it earned an international recognition. In 1957, even the Soviet leader Khrushchev decided to support peaceful coexistence among all nations. Globalization should not become the worldwide manifestation of the highest and subtlest form of capitalism, but as Mahatma Gandhi envisaged, a federation of friendly, interdependent nations where no one dominates or exploits another. The appropriate code of conduct for a globalized world would be the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence and not the overlordship of one superpower or group of nations. The United Nations should be at the core of this world order. Any intervention for the sake of human rights or democracy should be by the United Nations or by the express approval of the United Nations. One of the major issues today is defending the pluralistic world order where nations can evolve, grow and prosper according to their own genius. Jawaharlal Nehru observed in 1950s that it should be open to each country to develop in its own way, learning from others and not imposed by them. Essentially, this calls for a new mental approach. The Panchsheel and the 5 principles offered that approach. Today, we have to generate that mental approach which Panchsheel put forth so refreshingly during the 1950s, the golden years of Sino-Indian relations. It was said by Zhou Enlai that As the originator of Panchsheel, it is our duty to make this doctrine shine over the whole world for our mutual benefit, for peace, friendship and cooperation among nations.